Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking live with Dale. Today, I have the very great pleasure of having my first guest on this live. She is an author. She's the author of Nurses Making Money Moves. She is a keynote speaker. She's a nurse coach, business coach. She's an event planner and host. The host of Nurses Making Money Moves and Nurses Making Business Moves. She's a professor. She's a podcaster, The Nursing Dose with Farah. She's an entrepreneur. She's the founder of International Coach LLC. She's been featured on the Jennifer Hudson Show. And recently, I see she's been featured in the University of Windsor Alumni Magazine. Well, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. I'm welcoming Dr. Farah Laurent, the irrepressible Dr. Farah Laurent.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be on with you, Nurses Talking. You guys don't know, but this woman here is outstanding. She's doing so many amazing things. So I want to give you, a round of applause for all the great things you're doing. And, we met actually through LinkedIn, I believe.
Yes.
And, I went on her podcast a while back. And we've been kind of friends ever since. And we met at a conference. She came to my conference. So she's doing amazing things. If you're not connected with her, please take the time to connect and please subscribe to the Nurses Talking podcast because she's doing great things, talking to nurses really globally. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you for all of that. Wow. But anyway, let's get this thing. Let's dive right in and tell me a little bit about how you became a nurse. Why?
So that's a great question. Growing up, I immigrated to Canada when I was 9. And it's funny, you mentioned that I was featured at the University of Windsor. That's actually where I went to school. And they did a nice feature on me that I put on LinkedIn. So please check that out. So very proud that I'm a first-gen immigrant. As most immigrant parents, they're always trying to push their kids to be doctors, engineers, or lawyers. So, my dad was trying to get me to be a doctor. But I always knew that I wanted to be in the healthcare field, didn't know quite what it was. And then I just naturally fell in love with nursing. Growing up, I always say I was like putting Band-Aids on all my dolls and used to play all those games. And then it wasn't until really like high school when I really realized that that's what I wanted to do. I started watching a show that I always talk about. It's called Trauma, Life in the ER. And it was, all types of emergencies and trauma. And I'm like, that's the type of nurse I want to be. Like, I love that chaos. Like, that's me. And I went to nursing school in Canada at the University of Windsor and, loved all my clinicals, but I knew something was missing. I'm like, I need to get to that ER, right? And that's how it kind of all started. I had some wonderful instructors, but as we all know, some of us have some not so good educators. And one in particular, literally laughed in my face and was like, you'll never be an emergency nurse. And then I was like, okay, like, watch me, lady. I will go into the ER in like true fair fashion. You tell me I can't do something. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to do it. So I got hired as a nursing student in the ER. And then that's kind of where it all started. And that's why I'm so passionate about really empowering the next generation of nurses, through the coaching and content that I create.
Yeah. And so this instructor had no idea that telling you couldn't do it was the very thing that would encourage you. That was the encouragement you needed.
Yes. And I think there's always two types of people, right? As nurses, we know it's not an easy path, right? And I'm sure everyone has their story to get into nursing. I luckily was at home being supported. I didn't have to go away anywhere. I chose to stay home so I didn't have to have a lot of debt. So I had like a side job, but I didn't have to like work full time like a lot of people do and stuff like that. So, it's not easy getting in nursing and finishing nursing. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping nurses really get to where they want to be, because like it's a hard profession to get into, so why not do what it is that you love, right? So
Yeah.
that's really kind of the message that I have for nurses out there. You can either give up and be like, all right, I'm just gonna like, fall into the negativity and, people telling me I can't do this. But you could just take it the other way and just, just
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah, and I like actually how you frame yourself, because you call yourself a nurse career architect, not just a coach. You are putting those building blocks together with how
Yeah.
people advocate for themselves in terms of salary and the job they want and the culture they want to be in, and all of those kinds of things. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I think a lot of people really don't understand. First of all, the public doesn't understand what nurses do. And I think also some nurses don't know their opportunities. And this is why I know you started your podcast,
Yeah.
Nurses Talking, where you're talking to nurses globally, right? And like amplifying their voices. But there's so many great opportunities out there for nurses. And I know our industry has like every industry, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. But honestly, I'm proud to be a nurse. I always want to highlight the positive aspects of nursing because we need more people to come into the profession. But as long as they know their opportunities, they can navigate it better and be happy, right? Because we want happy nurses, right? And we need people to take care of us, right? So that's
That's
why
it.
I don't like when some people just keep talking down about our profession. Like, yes, there's things we need to fix, but let's be part of the solution, right? And this is why I love, how you're talking to nurses to talk about the different opportunities available for us. And also like how we can be more innovative and do, have an impact in a different way. And, having this podcast and having these conversations, I think is important. Yeah.
It's important. It's important. I agree with you. But you're a professor, and you spent a lot of your nursing life also in leadership and educational roles. So what do you think you could, if you could redesign nursing education, what would you change?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if we have enough time for that, but
Oh, one thing you would change.
okay. So, okay, definitely there's a couple things. Okay, so definitely making education fun is number one. One of my pillars is always making education fun. And also that ties into psychological safety, right? Nursing school has a way of like chipping at our confidence. Um, and there's some great schools, but one bad experience obviously can really last a lifetime, right?
Yes, yes,
So having educators that are really empowering and create that psychological safety so that students feel like they can ask any question is crucial to learning, right? Because we don't want these nurses to go out and be afraid to ask questions. And then, I even had people come to me and be like, "Oh, you didn't learn that in nursing school?" And I'm like,
yes.
"What? What is going on?" And I'm like, let's be nice to each other, right? So that's number one, make education fun, create that psychological safety. And then I don't know how, but these universities and colleges need to understand and figure out a way to pay the faculty better, the educators. Okay. That's a whole another episode. Okay. Because they deserve more. A lot of these educators have doctorates and
Yeah,
advanced degrees and are not making that much. So that's something else to pull better faculty to academia who really care, right? Because they're going to teach better once they care. And then having faculty that's diverse so that you can really connect with the students is another important part. And then obviously making the curriculum relevant. Let's make it relevant. Okay, that's all I got to say. Let's talk about some history. Yes, that's fine, but don't spend too much time talking about historical stuff. Like, I don't want to hear about flow anymore. Like, let's put that to the side and let's talk about real things that are impacting healthcare today. Let's
Yeah,
make it relevant
yeah,
to today, and then address tough issues that are happening in healthcare,
yeah, yeah. And
like
then that's a very
inequalities,
tough one.
discrimination, and all that stuff. And then the other part that I want to highlight is also, let's get these new generation of nurses to learn more advocacy skills, right? That's the big thing, because we need providers who are going to advocate more, right? So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Yeah, and then let them question the status quo. Let's challenge some of these old narratives. So that's what I would change.
And so for that, I think they need professors like you because you're all about challenging stuff.
Yeah, all about stirring it up. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
But okay, but a lot of your coaching focus is on new grads. Although
Mm-hmm.
you do work with others, you focus on new grads. So what would you say, what is the biggest mistake or one of the biggest mistakes you see new grads making?
Yeah. So, you know, I think biggest mistake out of nursing school is that they don't apply early because they have a lack of access to knowledge, right? A lot of these nursing schools are not teaching them that they can start applying for jobs in their senior year. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of them don't know that. So that's one of the big message that I like to say. Start building your profile, your resume from nursing school so that you can apply at least 3 to 6 months before you graduate. Because a lot of these nursing students and new grads, a lot of them are sitting around
Yeah,
post graduation up to 6 and 9 months with
yeah,
no job.
yeah.
Like, they need to understand that that process takes time and they need to do it early. You don't need your license and you don't need to pass the NCLEX to be able to apply for a job. So that's number one. And then number two, uh, they're too just worried about being professional, whatever that looks like, or whoever's telling them to be professional. And then they go into these interviews not prepared. They try to wing it and just do it themselves. So obviously, contact me because I can help you out. And they're trying to sound scripted, you
Yeah,
know. They go to Google, they look up answers, and it sounds scripted and it doesn't sound real. So have a little bit of your personality. And I talk about personal branding all the time. Have some of that personality in the interview. And the biggest skills that I would say is like confidence is key, mindset. And the way you're going to be confident is if you're more competent. So, meaning preparation, knowing your clinical style answers. Because trust me, like 90% of the time, they are going to ask you clinical
yeah,
questions, specifically in the area that you're going to. And then just some general emergency type questions, like, if someone's short of breath, someone has
mhm,
chest pain, how do you deal with that type of stuff? And then have a couple of stories. So that's the preparation that I say that's like the mistake they do. They don't prepare enough. And then clinically, they're just sometimes they just work too much. And we all had that issue. Like,
real regrets.
yeah, we're working like 5, 6, and 12-hour shifts, and then you get burnt out easily. So, that's probably the biggest thing. And then don't take the first job. Don't just settle for any job. Like, never settle, negotiate your salary, and then like find out what it is you want to do and go and pursue that. Don't listen to the negativity. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned something that I was going to ask you about anyway. So let's bring it up now. I know you're a big advocate. You're a big advocate for personal branding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So tell us about, because you know what? When you tell somebody like me about personal branding, I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, yeah.
How do people go about that? I know that you help them with that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a new concept, not really a new concept, but like it's being talked about quite a bit in the last couple of years. There's a lot of different definitions, and a lot of people thought personal branding or branding was more just for like these big businesses. And then they often associate branding with marketing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's totally different. Marketing is more short term. It's more like maybe you're promoting an event or promoting a product or something like that, right? But personal branding is more long term. And really, the essence of it is your reputation. Nurses think they don't have a personal brand, but you do have a personal brand. And essentially, you are the brand, which I always say.
Mhm.
And as an emergency nurse, somebody mentioned that to me once. They're like, "Oh, Faye, like you need to work on your branding." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking?" And then it wasn't until I started my business 4 years ago, started doing a lot of research about business and personal branding and marketing, all that stuff. And I realized the essence of most brands, whether you're a really big company, right, like Nike or something like that, or you have your own business, or in your career as a nurse, you need to learn how to manage your reputation.
Aha.
Meaning, I can say how fabulous I am all day and talk about how great I am. But if I'm talking to people who interact with me on a daily basis and I talk to 20 people and they all have 20 different things to say about me and it's not congruent, it's
Yeah.
not the same, then there's a disconnect. So that means how are you demonstrating yourself when you're out and about? So essentially the three or four things that I would say is like find out who you are essentially. Can you articulate that in about a sentence or two in your career, in your business? Like, what do you do? Okay. Number two, what do you stand for? Like, what values are important to you? And are you demonstrating and aligning yourself with those values? Number three is um, like image, right? How are you presenting yourself physically and also like how you communicate and all that type of stuff is like, is it congruent with your brand of like who you say you are? And it's not about making something up, it's just showing aspects of yourself that you want people to understand better so that essentially it creates trust and a sense of like, oh, I know Farah or I know Dale, she does this. This is important to her. This is the impact she wants to make so that like they understand essentially you, like your vision, your mission, and what
Yeah.
it is that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that is like building the digital footprint online and also in person when you go to events. So a lot of people are introverted and like, oh, like I don't want to go around and talk to everybody, right? But like at least like make it a point, like, hey, I'm gonna talk to these 5 people, introduce myself, have a small conversation so that people
Yeah.
start to get to know the real you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you just talked about being introverted. You know what I've noticed far is a lot of nurses are introverted. And with in a profession that requires you to put yourself out there, it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that so many of us are really introverted people.
Yeah, yeah. And just because you're introverted, doesn't mean you can't build a personal brand.
No,
You
it
can still
doesn't.
do that. And of course, even when you think in your own careers, like I feel that a lack of not being able to manage my brand early on in my career actually hurt my professional advancement
Ah.
because a lot of people were misperceiving the way that I was because I was so outspoken. I was very like direct, a big advocate, and sometimes that can be misperceived in a different way. So
Mhm.
just know that personal branding will help you advance in your career and also advance in your business. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you are a big you believe that nurses should have an entrepreneurial mindset, regardless of where they are, where they function in their daily life. Why is that?
Yeah. So a lot of people might disagree with me, but I don't care.
We know.
Because I feel that nurses, we've been kind of conditioned to be very humble in nursing. We take care of others.
Mhm.
We're in this caring profession and da 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 da. But I'm like, all right, cool. Who advocates for us? You know, Another thing I like to normalize is talking about money. Like,
Yes.
just because we're in nursing doesn't mean we can't advocate for ourselves in terms of salary negotiations and things like that. And a lot of people shy away from talking about those things. And I'm like, well, a lot of nurses are not happy because they're not making much. So let's normalize talking about how to make more money, how to use our skills, our abilities to leverage all this so that we could sit at the table, be more involved in these decision making. And let's say they don't want to invite us at the table, then make up your own table, do your own thing, do your own organization, right? Like, so shout out to like people like Danielle McCamey. She'll be coming out, Dr. McCamey, she'll be coming out and being a panelist speaker at the conference, right? Sometimes in these constructs, like, we're held, we're like, oh, we can't do this in the organization. You can't do that. You can't do this. Well, like, create your own way in the entrepreneurship way. So back to your answer, to your question about entrepreneurship mindset, not only can you use that in your career or in your business or in your life, but you need to think like an entrepreneur in terms, like, think about yourself like you are a business. If there weren't nurses, there would be no healthcare. Right? So if maybe you don't want to start a business, but you need to think of yourself as a business. And when you're negotiating salaries, going for that next job, that next position, like I always say, like, I hype people up. I'm like your biggest hype girl. Like, you are it. You are that girl. You are it. Because we think, oh, we need a next degree. We need a next certification. We're not good enough. Like, but these men are applying to all the positions even when they're not qualified.
And getting them.
Yes, and negotiating for more. So this is why I say have the entrepreneur mindset, because you need to make some business moves and some money moves. So let's go and let's boss up, okay? Because let's stop being shy, stop playing small and being too humble, and let's go after what we want. And a lot of times society doesn't like that for, female energy, but I'm all about empowerment. So let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. And that, as you just talked about, that translated also into us not asking, not just enough for salary, but when you step into an entrepreneurial space, you kind of still undervalue what you do and want to do it for less.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, nurses, and I even struggle with this,
I'm guilty.
when I started my business 4 years ago, I'm like, well, I'm just starting out. I don't want to charge so much and this, and we're constantly trying to like undervalue. And then we think for other people's pockets, and we need to stop. We need to stop doing that, right? Because it's all about value-based pricing. So I'll give you an example. A lot of the new nurses that I work with, they either have never had a job or they're currently not working or whatever the case is. So their income is zero, right? So when I work with them and I help them make $165K a year as a new nurse, that is value, right? So I've just literally transformed their entire life. They're making 0 to 165K. That is value. And not just the money, they're getting into positions where it's like their dream position, right? Like, they're getting into L&D, the ICU, pediatrics, NICU, community nursing, psych, places where people tell them you can't go there. And I'm like, yes, you can. Let me help you get there, right? So that is like transformation, because now they're happy going to work and they're making that money.
And they're making the money.
And let's normalize that, right? And then this is something else. When you go into entrepreneurship, we're always thinking, well, I don't want to charge that much, or I don't want to charge this much, or whatever. But you don't understand, like, the intellectual property that you have over the years of your experience. It's so valuable. Stop getting on phone calls, and I'm guilty of this. Stop getting on phone calls where people are like, oh, can I just like pick your brain on something? Oh, like, I'm starting this company and I want to talk to a nurse. Like, can I get on the phone with you and like ask you about this, this, and this? Y'all better start a consulting company and start charging for your intellectual property. Okay, period. That's it.
Okay, so I have a question that I usually ask in my on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to ask it to you
Yeah.
because you are very highly involved with new nurses and with education and whatever. And
Yeah.
so I want to know, where do you think you see nurses in like another decade or so?
Oh, where do I see them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I think I still see nurses in similar roles. However, my own vision is I'd like to see more diversity, like more diverse nurses. Um, I also see more nurses going into the technology, innovation, informatics, and having more of a role in terms of AI
Mm-hmm.
because, there's a lot of like early adopters with AI and technology, but it we're going that way. So
So get
it's
get
it's
get with
not
the program.
right. So what I would say is if you're a nurse and you're like, I don't know about this AI stuff, like you better jump on it and start to learn, right? Shout out to oh my God, I can't even Dr. Kiana Jones. She
Okay.
spoke at the last conference. She
Mhm.
does a lot of AI consulting. And she actually, I think it was on TikTok, she shared that you can actually go on Open AI and they
Mhm.
actually have free courses
Mhm.
that you can take in different categories. So shout out to Dr. Jones for sharing that. Because you need to start being up on this AI stuff because guess what? I think in like a couple years from now, in the job descriptions, it's going to ask, do you know about AI? Do you have certifications in AI? They got PhD programs in AI
Yes.
already
Mhm. Mhm.
and
Yeah.
master's
Looking
programs.
at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'll say. And then there's only about 1% of nurses right now globally, I believe, that are in business or have a business. I think that's going to change, especially with nurse practitioners. I think
Mhm.
more nurse practitioners are going to be opening up their own practices, telehealth businesses, so that it can help with access to care. So I think it's going more like telehealth in a few years. Um, and then obviously it's already happening. There's a lot more ambulatory care centers that are
Yes.
opening everywhere.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's kind of where nursing is going. And then also there's going to be more nurses, which there already are nurses in other industries. So
Yes.
like start looking for jobs that don't necessarily have the word nurse in the
It.
description.
Yeah.
So there's so many, companies that are hiring nurses. So I think that's another shift. And then they're probably just, we need more nurses on actual different boards, type of boards, uh,
Yep.
because nurses have different perspectives that can really help with policy changes and things like that. So yeah, that's where I think, we're running the world here. We're running the world.
We have run the world.
We run the world, girls. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So here's the thing, though. I have one last question for you. I
Yes.
know that throughout your career, um, several times you have come up against doors that have closed.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so I want to know, first of all, well, I guess the question I want to ask is what keeps you motivated in those periods?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, number one, definitely my kids. If you have kids, uh, there's like you ain't got any other choice. Like these are little humans that you're responsible for. So that's the ultimate motivation, right? Obviously, I think like faith, right? Believe in God and faith like keeps me grounded. And when doors close, and I'm sure a lot of us have gotten
Mhm.
laid off, multiple times. I got laid off 3 times in the last 5 years, despite having a doctorate and all these certifications. So I tell people out here, like, if it hasn't happened to you, don't think that it can't happen to you, and be prepared in terms of like stay ready in terms of different opportunities, keep networking, keep updating your stuff, updating your resume, your skills, keep updating those skills. Um, and then obviously start a hot side hustle. You need a side hustle because if your main gig falls apart, at least you have a business to fall under. On, right? And like I know business is not for everybody, but it could simply be consulting or being a coach or being a speaker, even, right? So many organizations, conferences, events want nurses as speakers. You could literally do that a couple times a year and have some income for that. So have multiple streams of income. So really what motivates me is, like I said, that my kids, my faith, and then something more than me. So people will say like, oh, you're wasting your time creating content. Like, why are you giving all your information for free? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, because I didn't have this as a nursing student. And for me, it fulfills me to help other nursing students, new grads, really have that support as they're transitioning into practice. And then I'm all about female empowerment. Like, I don't want nurses having to work 2, 3 jobs and then not having that financial literacy and that business acumen, because we know that a lot of women are like either single moms or there's a lot of drama going on in people's lives. So if you're financially stable and you have that business acumen, you can pivot into any space that you want to. So that's what kind of business skills and that entrepreneurship mindset helps you do. And then just knowing your purpose and your impact that can change over time. But I always say, once you know your purpose, you will always have direction. So I don't care
Exactly.
if 10 doors close, maybe that's God pushing you into a different direction so that you can really go
Flower.
into your purpose. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Money moves, business moves. Like stick ready. That's it. You got to just keep accumulating those skills because nobody's coming to save you. Okay,
Exactly.
it's just
Exactly.
you,
It's
right? And I used to be in this boat. Like I used to complain a lot, as an early nurse. Like, oh, the system and this discrimination, and it happens, right? There's favoritism and there's this. Okay, all right, cool. So what? What are you gonna do about it now? So let's figure out and be solution focused. If you don't like the environment you're in, you can change it, get out of it, and do something else. So that's kind of like the framework that you have to start working with. And then always stay faithful and positive. And don't listen to people with their negativity because like, you can tell somebody an idea, they're like, yeah, that's not gonna work. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. Be very careful of like who you surround yourself with. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's very true that many of us reach for the negative without actually even realizing that that's what we're doing.
Yeah, because and I think some people mean well, like family members and even your close proximity family members, like they mean well, but maybe because things didn't work out in their lives or whatever, they're like projecting it onto you. So I would say like just do what you want to do, and it'll work out. And if it doesn't work out, you learn and then you move on.
And you move on.
Like so many nurses are like they don't want to take any risks, right?
Yeah.
And this is where like it differs. Like this is when the true entrepreneurs from the ones that are like, I'm not really sure. Like it hurts my soul to like have to go to a job over and over where the leaders don't care. The leaders are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're just kind of like there, status quo. They don't care. And you're like, man, I know I could be making a greater impact. And then, but you don't do anything about it, right? You got to take the risk.
Yeah.
And you got to do something different because you're just going to be miserable if you don't take that risk, right?
Yeah.
And then it takes consistency. You don't have to be perfect when you start, but this is why I'm so proud of you and all of the work that you've done, because you're trying new things, you're networking,
Yeah.
you're getting out there, you're switching up your podcast, you're doing different things. So reach out to Dale if you want to be on her podcast. She'll connect with you. And you want to tell them about your book? She has a book coming out.
I promise you all, I didn't pay her to say that. I didn't know. But I do. I have been working on a book for quite some time now, and I have been procrastinating. And this is the first sharing of that bit of news, that it is actually going to be out hopefully in the fall. And so I will keep you updated. I'll tell you, I'll give you little bits and pieces here and there about what the title is. And I will tell you that it's about my other passion, which is aging. And I'm going to leave that there.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and this is what I'm talking about, right? Don't put yourself in a box and think like, oh, I'm just a nurse, right? Like you can do so many different things. And, one of my goals is actually to write a children's book. I've been saying that for a while. Another person who came to the conference, I can't remember her last name, but her name's Ashley. She's a nurse practitioner. She wrote a children's book a little while back. So, explore different things, and just know that you can monetize off so many things, like monetize off having a podcast, writing articles, doing brand partnerships, because really my big thing with nurses is we need to be more visible, like on podcasts. So shout out to Dale. Please connect with her, and you should come on her podcast and she'll give you all the details. But nurses need to be more in the media so that we could educate the public and also talk about our very different experiences, so we can help inspire each other. And you could help inspire people globally, truly, as such as you're doing with your podcasts, really internationally. Yeah. And subscribe to my podcast, The Nursing Dose.
Subscribe to your podcast.
And subscribe
The Nursing Dose with Farah.
And shout out to Dale. Like, connect with her right after this if you're interested to be on this podcast, so you could highlight all the wonderful things that you're doing in your career or in your business, or if you want to share your story, definitely connect with her. Yeah, and then get her book when it comes out.
So we have a couple of people who left us some messages in the chat. There's a Michelle Dubuisson.
Oh, Michelle Dubuisson. Yeah, she came to the Business Mastermind. Shout out to Michelle. I don't know if she's still listening.
She says you're quite a motivator, and you'll push you off the edge. She'll push you off the edge.
She said much needed for some of us. Yes, Michelle actually is just registering her business. She came to my Business Mastermind in Clearwater Beach. She does some amazing things with weight loss and things like that. So yeah, shout out to Michelle.
All right, thanks for that, Michelle. And then there's Nakia Jackson from right here in Connecticut. Hi, Nakia. There's a user. My son said you gave great advice, Rupert Pond, and my daughter-in-law always negotiate your salary, she says, always. Such great advice being shared, she says. Nakia, again, says, speak on it. And Deborah, okay, Deborah, I'm going to let your last name go. Deborah is speaking to us out of Nigeria here, and she says, can I say this is the best episode I've listened to? I love the part where she said, stop playing small. I'm big on screaming.
That's awesome. You see, you have global listeners. You're international, so that's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. Any last words you want to leave us with? Any gems you want to
Of course, I'm going to self-promote like I always do. So definitely go to my website, nursefair.com. You can get yourself this book. If you're interested in starting a business, it's an actual workbook. If you want to go to the Business Mastermind, this is the very last one that I'm going to be having in October 10, 11, 12 in Clearwater Beach, where we'll spend a weekend together. Maybe you can come too, Dale. We'll talk about that later.
Don't you mean the very last one this year?
This year. Yes, and you can literally leave with a business idea, with a business registered, Or if you're a new entrepreneur and you're like, you know what, I'm struggling with creating content, struggling with marketing, struggling with getting clients, or whatever it is, this is the mastermind for you because it's one-on-one support from me. And then we create a community because it's only about like 6 to 8 nurses who go. And it's so much fun. You get like a spa treatment, beachfront, so many amazing things. And it's a 3-hour open bar for those who like to, get some food.
And I know she's a nurse, but I have to tell you that as someone who's attended her conference, you don't have to be a nurse to attend her conference. There's something there for every single person.
Yes.
So don't, just because she's a nurse, don't think you're excluded.
Yes. Because the next conference will happen. The annual conference is happening March 6th and 7th in Tampa, Florida, at the University of Tampa in their entrepreneurship building. And like Dale said, you don't have to be a nurse to attend, but it's literally business. We're going to talk about how to make money moves. Yeah. And there's different speakers, not just nurse speakers, but also different speakers that are experts in marketing and social media content. And of course, I'll talk about personal branding and all that great stuff. So yeah, definitely check that out. And then I also have a course, a business course that'll be upcoming at the University of West Georgia in their continuing education. Like say you can't go in person, you could take this digital course that I've created. So that's kind of a little bit about me. And then, just connect with me on LinkedIn and connect with Dale if you're not connected. Like, hello.
Like, hello. She said that was a little bit about her. Okay. Farah, thank you for this. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And please subscribe to the Nurses Talking and reach out to Dale if you want to be on the podcast and get featured as well. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.